welcome to Makeup and Monarchies. My name is Tiffany. I am a cosmetologist, hairstylist, makeup artist, lover of all things UK medieval history. Today we're going to be talking about Matilda of Scotland, who was Queen of England, but she wasn't born with that name. So why was her name changed? Let's get going. So Edith was born in Dunfermline in 1080. She was originally christened as Edith. She was the sixth child and first daughter of Margaret of Wessex and Malcolm III of Scotland. Though through her mother, she was a descendant of Edmund Ironside and thus Alfred the Great. At her christening, at the ceremony, was Robert Curthose, the oldest son of William the Conqueror, and his mother, Queen Matilda of England. They were named godfather and godmother, respectively. Little baby Edith pulled at Matilda's headdress during the ceremony / festivities, and this was a sign that, or seen as an omen, that the baby would one day be queen. Edith was brought up alongside her siblings by their mother, who was very loving but strict. She didn't hold back when it came to raising them in virtue and instilled the importance of religion. When Edith was around 6 years old, she was sent alongside her younger sister Mary to be educated at Romsey Abbey in Hampshire, England. At the abbey, their maternal aunt, Christina, was abbess. Here they learned more than the standard female pursuits at the time. They learned English, French, and Latin. It's thought that Edith also learned financial management and geometry as well. At 13, when she was still at the Abbey and later Wilton Abbey, Edith was a sought after bride, where it was claimed William II, so William Rufus, considered marrying her. She had turned down proposals from William de Warenne, 2nd Earl of Surrey, and Alan Rufus, Lord Richmond, but in 1093, her parents betrothed her to Alan Rufus. November of that year, her father and older brother Edward were killed at the Battle of Alnwick. Once Queen Margaret got the news that her husband and her son had died, she died as well. Edith's uncle, her father's brother, Donald, usurped the throne. Her surviving brothers, Edgar, Alexander, and David, were sent to England to the court of William II for safety. Edith was abandoned by Alan, who took off with Gunhild of Wessex, a daughter of Harold Godwinson. Alan died before he was able to marry her, though. Edith left the monastery around this time, possibly from the conflict in Scotland between her uncle Donald III, her half-brother Duncan II, and her brother Edgar. Archbishop Anselm of Canterbury wrote to the Bishop of Salisbury and ordered that she be returned to the monastery. She didn't go back, but her whereabouts weren't in the chronicles until 1100. It's more than likely she was with her brothers at the court of William II. William supported her brothers in taking the throne of Scotland in 1097. William II, so William Rufus of England, died in August of 1100 while hunting in the New Forest. The belief is he was shot with an arrow by his younger brother Henry. Said brother immediately took the royal treasury and the crown. It's said he was manipulative and clever. Possibly the reason he had so many illegitimate children, charmed the skirts off the ladies, perhaps. He was strict and merciless in the case of war and rebellion. He did have a ton of illegitimate children. I think it was like 20, but no wife. So that was the next thing to do on his to-do list. His eyes were set on Edith, who he had known her for a while. William of Malmesbury said that Henry had long been attached to her. It was also said that he adored her. Even though Henry had been born in England, marrying a woman with ties to the Wessex line would gain popularity with the English people. This marriage would unite the Anglo and Norman line, or Norman houses. It would also bring together Scotland and England. 3 of her brothers became kings of Scotland and were friendly toward England. This didn't age well. I know, I'm aware. Her brother Alexander I married Sybil, one of Henry's illegitimate children or daughters. And David I lived at Henry's court for a while before he succeeded the throne from their brother. I'm going to jump off and do my liner. I will be right back. So because Edith had spent so much of her youth in a convent, there was controversy over whether she was a nun or not. If so, she wouldn't be eligible for marriage. Edith was ready to throw down and fight for her status as a marriageable woman instead of staying in the monastery. Once the Archbishop Anselm of Canterbury returned to England, Edith tracked his ass down and convinced him that she had never been a nun. She said that her aunt Christina had forced her to wear a veil, but her father had ripped off the offensive headdress and tore it to shreds at the sight of her being veiled. Anselm was unwilling to decide that matter on his own, so he called a council of bishops to determine the canonical legality of a proposed marriage and ordered 2 inquiries at Wilton to get first-hand information about it. Edith testified that she had never taken holy vows and insisted that her parents sent her to England for educational reasons, but that her aunt had veiled her to protect her from the lust of the Normans. She said she pulled the veil off and stamped on it, which caused her aunt to beat her and scold her. This concluded that Edith was not a nun. She never had been, and her parents didn't intend for her to become one. So the permission for her marriage was granted. Edith and Henry were married on November 11th of 1100 at Westminster Abbey by Archbishop Anselm of Canterbury. When the wedding ceremony was over, Edith was crowned queen and took the regal name Matilda, which was a hallowed Norman name. It's not really known exactly why she had her name changed, but it's believed that it was her attempt to please the Normans or the Norman subjects and Henry. Their court was filled with poets, as she's known as patron of the arts and especially music. Matilda's first child was born on February 7th of 1102 at Winchester Cathedral. Matilda's first child was born on February 7th of 1102, either at Winchester or Sutton Courtenay. It was a girl named Matilda. August 5th of 1103, they welcomed another baby, this time a boy, and his name was William. There is a speculated birth that ended in a stillborn child in July of 1101, but it's thought that it isn't true since the timing for Princess Matilda's birth would be too close to have been a full-term birth. Henry went away on military campaigns in France and Normandy, and while he was gone, he left Matilda as regent. She traveled around England, and it's thought she visited Normandy between 1106 and 1107. Now, between 1103 and 1107, Matilda acted as mediator between Henry and Archbishop Anselm during the English investiture controversy. She wrote letters during the Archbishop's absence. In one, she asked him for advice and to come back. As they went on, she was mediating more and more. The issue was resolved through a compromise in 1105. Henry gave up the right to pick and invest his own bishops, and the church agreed that he could receive homage from the bishops for the temporal land the church had in his domains. Matilda came to the table with a small dowry, but it did include lordship rights. Oh my God. This allowed her to manage her properties, and most of her estates were granted from the lands. Do not mind my hands right now, they're awful. Previously held by Edith of Wessex. Henry had made a number of grants to the queen, and this included sizable property in London. This was a political move to win over the Londoners who were staunch supporters of the Wessex king. I am going to add a little bit of black into my crease, I think. Matilda held a big interest in architecture, and used her income to build Norman-style buildings, in particular Waltham Abbey and Holy Trinity Aldgate. She also had the first arched bridge in England built. It was Stratford-le-Bow with a causeway across the marshes. Matilda was devoted to the poor, building public bathrooms and a bathhouse with piped water. She founded at least 2 leper hospitals, which included the institution that later became the parish church of St. Giles in the Fields. Henry V of Germany sent envoys to Henry in the later half of 1108 and early 1109. I'm not crazy about this brow stuff. I'm just telling you. It's not my favorite. We carry on. He proposed a marriage between himself and Henry and Matilda's daughter, Matilda. He also wrote a separate letter to Queen Matilda about the same thing. This was an intriguing union for the king, since his daughter would be the wife to one of the most prestigious monarchs in Europe and would gain him an ally in his conflicts with France. Through this marriage, Henry V would get 10,000 marks in a dowry to fund his expedition to Rome for his coronation as Holy Roman Emperor. I am going to clean up my shadow. I just want to bring this up a little bit more, and then I'm going to do my lashes. I will be right back. So all the details of this marriage was ironed out in June of 1109 at Westminster Abbey, and Princess Matilda left England for Germany in February of 1110. They were officially betrothed Easter of that year. What the fuck? Ugh, I'm so tired of this. No, it does not look like that in person. They were officially betrothed Easter of the same year. Matilda was 8 at the time. She was crowned Roman German queen July 25th of 1110. They were married 3 years later, about 3.5 years later, on January 7th of 1114, when Matilda was just shy of her 12th birthday. Our Matilda is known as a woman of exceptional holiness, in piety to rival her mother's, and in her own character exempt from all evil influence. For some time, sainthood was sought for her, but she was never canonized. She's also known for her generosity towards the church. She founded and supported cloisters and hospitals for leprosy, also being described as attending church barefoot at Lent and washing the feet and kissing the hands of the sick. Matilda was a patroness of the monk Benedict's version of the Voyage of St. Brendan, which was written between 1106 and 1118. She had commissioned the monk Thurgot of Durham to write a biography on her mother, St. Margaret. I'm going to jump off and do my hair quickly. I'll be right back. Matilda passed away on May 1st of 1118 at Westminster Palace. Supposedly 3 of her ladies in waiting were so upset about her death that they immediately became nuns. She had wanted to be buried at Holy Trinity, Aldgate, but her husband had her buried at Westminster Abbey near Edward the Confessor. The inscription on her tomb says, "Here lies the renowned Queen Matilda II, excelling both young and old of her day. She was for everyone the benchmark of morals and the ornament of life. Matilda was around 37, 38 when she died. I take severe umbrage to the old remark. 2 years after her death, her only son was killed in the White Ship disaster. Henry had remarried after the wreck and failed to produce another heir. So the anarchy takes place after his death. I did a video about that back in June of last year. So if you would like to go take a look at that, I will link it down below. So it'll bring you right over to it. Let's just get into fun facts. So fun fact, I have two of them for Matilda / Edith Matilda. Matilda's mother, Queen Margaret, was canonized in 1250 and made a saint. The second one is she stayed hidden for 7 years during the Scottish court succession crisis. So that's all I have for Matilda, Edith today, or in general. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see what I used, even though I'm not happy with this today, it is what it is. All the products will be listed down below. If you are on the socials, you can find me over on Instagram, TikTok at Makeup and Monarchies. And if you enjoy what I'm doing and would like to help support me, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/Makeup and Monarchies and contribute to my caffeine addiction. That's all I have today. I don't know what we're gonna do next week. It might be Edward the First. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be Henry the Second. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, that's all I've got. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please leave a comment down below if you did. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.